one thing I have discovered is that when you look back over your past, you can't change it. You can be forgiven for past things that you've done wrong or neglected or whatever. God forgives, but the past cannot be changed. It's already fixed. Now, obviously, the future can change, but the past is what it is. And sometimes we need to look back and examine things. Uh, you remember the story, we haven't watched it this year, but usually at Christmas time, the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. And, Scrooge went to sleep on, I guess it was on Christmas Eve, and he had this dream of Christmas past. And it didn't go well for Scrooge. This ghost came and appeared to him and said, look at your life. Look at how stingy you've been and how cruel you've been to people in the past. And so he had to face that. And then he had the Christmas present. And obviously, Christmas present was saying to him, nothing's different. You're still the same today as you were yesterday. And then Christmas future comes and gives Scrooge an opportunity to make things different in the future. Well, there's nothing wrong with examining our past. It's just something that we have to do sometimes. And so when we look back over the year, I usually think of things like, well, what are the opportunities of the past that I missed? Now, I want you to think for a moment today, because at the end of the service, at the end of the message, we're going to have the Lord's Supper together. So the invitation is right now. While I'm speaking to you, if the Lord says something to you today, and he says a challenge to you or whatever, it's a moment for you to make a decision, even before we get to the end. It's during the message itself. You can say, that spoke to me, and I need to do something about that. So as we look back over the past, maybe there are opportunities that we've missed. Now, they won't come again. No opportunity is ever the same. I mean, maybe one day it comes that you need to share the good news with a neighbor, and you don't do it. You think, well, I'll do that later. Well, that opportunity, it may come in a different form later on, but that particular opportunity will never come again. And how many times have all of us failed to take advantage of an opportunity that arose, and we can't do anything about it now because it's in the past, it's gone, and it won't come back. But we can hope that it might change our attitude toward the future. Sometimes I think back over the year and I think, well, there have been some times when I misplaced my priorities. When you think about it, as a Christian, you say you follow Jesus Christ and he's Lord of your life. So where does he come in the priorities? We just sang about that. Jesus said, I gave everything for you. What have you given for me? I've borne everything for you. What have you borne for me? And so that's a good question. And I ask myself as I look back over my life this past year, have I misplaced my priorities? Has Jesus always been in first place in my life? And that's a good question to answer right now in these moments. So Jesus said, remember, think back what I've done, think back about what you've done, and remember. But he also said, as I read there in verse 28, let a man examine himself. The word there in the Greek language means to examine with a purpose to change. I mean, sometimes you can say, well, I'm going to look at myself, I'm going to examine myself, but we're like the man in the book of James. It says he went and looked at himself in a mirror, and then he turned away and he forgot what he saw in the mirror. And that's pretty easy to do, I guess. If you're getting ready for the day, you go in and get in front of the mirror, and you got to fix your hair and all that sort of thing. You get dressed, you want to make sure you look your best, and then you walk away and you forget. Well, the same thing applies if we're looking internally in our life and examining ourselves. What good does it do if you forget what you see? What you see is an opportunity to make a change. And examine there doesn't mean, okay, I've got my standard, and I'm going to examine myself by my own standard. We do that quite often, and literally what we come up with at the end of the day is, I'm doing pretty good. I've examined myself, and I think I'm doing okay. Well, you need a better standard than yourself. To measure yourself by yourself is not real good. So there is a standard, and that standard is Jesus Christ, and none of us measure up to him, obviously. That's what the verse, Romans 3:23 says, we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. He is the glory of God. And we fall short of that. Now, God doesn't condemn us because we do. He has extended his love and grace to us so that we can become more and more like his son. So we are to examine ourselves in light of who Jesus Christ is. So when I think about my life and I look back over the last year or last week, and I ask myself, am I more like Christ today than I was yesterday? I like what Henry David Thoreau said. He wrote this about 1850.